Good morning. It is Monday, April 1st, and this is Fox and Friends First.
Happening right now at 4 a.m., a Fox News alert. President Trump could shut down our southern border as early as today.
His new warning to Central American countries that aren't doing enough to solve the migrant crisis.
And police versus prosecutors.
The message Chicago's finest are sending today after Jussie Smollett's charges are dropped.
Other than the people in the media on the left, not on this network, I don't know anybody who got anything wrong.
And Jake Tapper says CNN got it right with the Mueller report.
Social media, though, not really buying it. Fox and Friends First starts right now. But I will tell you about it later.
I got to hear about this in the commercial break, probably. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Monday morning. I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jillian Mealy. We are in for Heather Childers today. Thanks so much for starting your day with us. Let's get straight to this Fox News alert. Today, President Trump could shut down the U.S.-Mexico border as illegal immigrants surge into our country.
Griff Jenkins joins us live from Washington with more on the White House strategy. And we have a big situation here on how Mexico may intend to help. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Rob and Jillian, good morning. I guess the White House would say that this is no April Fool's joke. They say this is no bluff when the president says he's dead serious about closing the border this week. Acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney explains.
Why are we talking about closing the border? Because not for spite and not to try and undo what's happening, but to simply say, look, we need the people from the ports of entry to go out and patrol in the desert where we don't have any wall. We hate to say we told you so, but we told you so.
CBP says each day nearly 40% of agents on the southwest border are diverted away from the border security mission to care for family units and unaccompanied children. But closing the border would have an undeniable economic cost. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce warning it could greatly impact the daily $1.7 billion cross-border trade between the U.S. and Mexico. And some Democrats say they want to avoid the situation.
The idea of just using bluster and statements and we're going to close down the border, we're going to cut off the aid, that's not going to do anything. Let's work together, Democrats and Republicans. There are a lot of us who want to do it, to work together to actually address this problem once and for all.
This as the president is stopping $500 million of aid to the Northern Triangle countries you see there. El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. This is where they say most of the migrants are coming from. And last night, the president taking a shot at Mexico and Democrats for not doing enough, tweeting this. The Democrats are allowing a ridiculous asylum system and major loopholes to remain as a mainstay of our immigration system. Mexico is likewise doing nothing, a very bad combination for our country. Homeland Security is being so very nice, but not for long. Now, Mexican officials said yesterday that today they plan to revamp a humanitarian visa program in southern Mexico, Chiapas, on a limited basis for about 2,500 migrants starting today. That larger program shut down earlier this year due to overwhelming numbers. It will be interesting to see how it develops later this week. Rob, Jillian?
Yeah, I mean, it all starts at the southern Mexican border, so it's interesting to see how they could play a role in this. Griff, thanks so much.
And Democrats are fuming over the Trump administration's decision to cut aid to Central America, despite several warnings over the last year.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham backs the move, saying it's time to stop paying until these countries step up.
What are we supposed to do? You have the Mexican government allowing thousands of people to walk all across Mexico. They provide them buses. They drop them off at the border, and they say, here, United States, deal with this problem. We've had 100,000 people cross the border illegally in March alone. We're on track to over 1 million this year if this keeps up. So Mexico could help more. They should help more. The Triangle countries, 70% of the people coming here illegally come from 3 countries. We need those countries to help more. So if the president feels like that the only way to control this problem is to move the people from the port of entry to the ungoverned spaces where we need a wall, I will support him. I hope we don't have to do that. To my Democratic friends, let's sit down and change these laws that entice people to come here legally.
The latest Customs and Border Patrol numbers show an average of nearly 54,000 apprehensions at the southern border each month so far this fiscal year.
All right, other news now. A well-known rapper shot dead in broad daylight in Los Angeles. Grammy-nominated rapper Nipsey Hussle was one of 3 people shot outside of a clothing store, which he reportedly owned. The shooter is still on the run at this point. 2 others were rushed to the hospital. Celebrities like Rihanna, Pharrell Williams, and LeBron James posting tributes to the 33-year-old musician online. The rapper claimed to be a gang member on his Facebook page.
Today, Chicago police officers will protest outside the prosecutor's office in the wake of the Jussie Smollett case. The department is demanding the FBI intervene following Cook County State Attorney Kim Foxx's decision to dismiss all 16 felony charges. The Empire actor is accused of faking a racist hate crime against himself in January. Reverend Jesse Jackson, among others, are planning a rally in support of Foxx today.
All right, a young ISIS fighter is executed by the terror group after being accused of spying. This baby-faced jihadist known as Osama bin Bieber, as he was called, is believed to be the first British ISIS fighter killed by the extremists for spying. ISIS officials reportedly told British media he was put to death after revealing the location of a high-ranking ISIS official.
2 Marine pilots are killed in a helicopter crash during a routine training mission. Officials at the Marine Air Corps Station near Yuma, Arizona, say the pilots were flying an AH-1Z Viper as part of a weapons and tactics course. The Marines are notifying families before they release the pilots' names. The crash is under investigation. A little boy missing since 2017 is found living with his father in a different state. Investigators say Kenneth Graham abducted his son in Texas and has been living with him in Florida. Police just found them inside a suspicious vehicle outside Orlando. Joshua's mother, who has sole custody of the 9-year-old, is on her way to get her son. Graham could face criminal charges.
Former Vice President Joe Biden is challenging claims that he inappropriately touched a former assemblywoman back in 2014. Biden releasing a statement reading in part, quote, "In my many years on the campaign trail and in public life, I have offered countless handshakes, hugs, expressions of affection, support, and comfort. And not once, never, did I believe I acted inappropriately." The allegation comes as Biden weighs a potential 2020 run for president. Garrett Tenney has more.
On Friday, former Nevada State Assemblywoman Lucy Flores went public with her story, claiming Biden came up behind her at a campaign rally in 2014 as she was about to take the stage, placed his hands on her shoulders, leaned in, smelled her hair, and then planted a slow kiss on the back of her head. Today, Flores said while Biden's behavior doesn't rise to the level of sexual assault, it was completely inappropriate. And for her, his latest statement misses the mark.
My point was never about his intentions, and they shouldn't be about his intentions. It should be about the women on the receiving end of that behavior. And this isn't the first time, and it wasn't the only incident where he was acting inappropriately with women.
As for Biden's potential competition, nearly every other Democratic candidate has weighed in on this allegation, saying they believe Lucy Flores, and several are also suggesting that Biden will have to answer for this incident as well as many others if he decides to enter the race. As for Biden's potential competition, nearly every other Democratic candidate has weighed in on the allegation, saying they believe Lucy Flores, and several are also suggesting that Biden will have to answer for this allegation as well as many others if he decides to enter the race. In Washington, I'm Garrett Tenney, Fox News.
Let's talk about March Madness now, where a couple of shocking upsets set the stage for the Final Four.
If you're Duke, once he gives it up, face guard, and don't overhelp. Open look, going is here, it's in.
Oh man, Michigan State getting a clutch 3-pointer with under a minute left. The Spartans take down top overall seed Duke, 68-67.
And another great shocker here, Auburn heading to their first ever Final Four after beating Kentucky 77-71 in overtime. The Tigers will take on Virginia. Michigan State will face Texas Tech. The Final Four tips off Saturday night. I watched both of these games.
Did you?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
It's exciting when it gets to this point.
Oh, yeah. The Auburn game was great. Love it. All right, 10 minutes after the hour, President Trump threatening to cut funding to Central America as the caravans continue to come to the border. Well, pressuring Mexico's government on this issue as they allow a lot of people to come through their country. Will that work? Jessica Vaughn says yes, it'll help American taxpayers as well. She joins us live with her explanation. legislation coming up.
And it's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's time to shine. The controversial magazine cover hitting newsstands this morning. We're coming right back on a Monday. Stay there.
He's on my side. Yes, it is.
President Trump intending to cut aid to Central American countries amid even more caravan chaos at the border.
Now he's pushing Mexico to help fix the immigration crisis immediately or close the southern border. But will anything change? Here to discuss is Jessica Vaughn from the Center for Immigration Studies. Thank you for joining us this morning, Jessica. I want to start with this. I'm curious what you'd say about this. Some people argue that by cutting aid to these countries, that's in turn going to make the problem there worse. And then essentially, in theory, we could have a bigger problem at our border. What do you say to that?
No, I don't think that's accurate. Our foreign aid is not going to change these countries and suddenly make them a better place. The reason people are coming to our country now is because they can get away with it. And they know that the policies at the border enable them to come here, especially if they come with a child. They're going to be released into the country and be allowed to live here indefinitely just by saying that they fear return. That's why they're coming. We need more cooperation from these countries, so especially so that we can return them quickly, because the only thing that's going to stop this is if they see that they're not getting away with it. So there are a number of different things that we need to be doing, but leaning on these countries to do a better job in cooperating with the return of people, getting them back in an efficient and accelerated way is what's going to turn this around, along with a few other measures as well.
Yeah.
Of course, Mexico is really the key country that we need to lean on.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. I mean, if you look at the return on investment for sending the money to the Central American countries, obviously it doesn't look like it's working very well. But you look at Mexico, and even what Lindsey Graham that we just played in the last block, he says they're inviting them right through, and they're even giving them buses and taking them right to the U.S. border. I mean, they can stop all of this. Their southern border can be secured. It's much smaller. It's much easier to do the work there. What's your position there? Should we lean on Mexico a little tougher than these three Central American nations?
Absolutely. We should be leaning on them to work together to stop this, because this is brazen criminal smuggling that is going on right now. And if Mexico enforced its own immigration laws, it would be stopped. This whole flow is based on so-called asylum claims. Mexico has stepped up and offered people asylum, almost like calling their bluff, and people are not taking it. They're saying, no, we want to go to the United States. So I think that there are a number of ways that we can work with Mexico to put a stop to this, but Mexico has no interest in doing this unless it becomes their problem too. And so that's why we have to do things like work with them to intercept people, tell asylum seekers that they have to wait in Mexico if they're going to make a claim in the United States. And our government has to say, look, if you come through Mexico, your asylum claim probably isn't valid, so we're going to treat you like any other illegal migrant and return you quickly. And that's where the cooperation of the Central American countries comes into play, because we need them to take their citizens back. I mean, yes, is there a cost in commerce and other ways? Of course there is, but there's a huge cost of illegal immigration that American taxpayers are having to bear, because this problem has been going on for several years now. And until we spend some resources to send people back, it's not going to stop.
Real quick, Jessica, before we let you go, let's take a look at some numbers here. 218,767 total asylum applications. That's in the fiscal year of 2018.
Wow.
A large number there. Why do you think it's so important for everyone to be processed?
Well, because what we know from experience is that if we let people in to make an asylum claim, it turns out that more than half of them don't even fill out the asylum application, and they don't show up for their immigration court hearing. And that's why we need to start enforcing our laws as well and start returning these people back to their home countries so that they see that they are not simply going to be allowed to live here. And that's what's really going to stop people from wanting to make this dangerous journey. If others are not succeeding, new people are not going to start it. And And that's why we need the cooperation of the Central American countries as well, to return these people back to their home country, and then we can start talking about other ways to...
It clearly does look like it's a loophole in our system when you use the asylum status, and the numbers seem to show that. Democrats, though, still say that these are actual asylum seekers, that this is legitimate. So we'll see how this develops. Jessica, thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, 18 minutes after the hour, this migrant woman complained, actually got famous, complaining about being fed beans on her journey through Mexico coming to the United States. And now she's in some trouble, and she might be complaining about the cuisine fed to her behind bars next.
Other than the people in the media on the left, not on this network, I don't know anybody who got anything wrong.
Jake Tapper says CNN got it right with the Mueller report, but social media might have a different opinion. Carly Shimkus here with the reaction pouring in online. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, Jake Tapper defending CNN's coverage of the Mueller-Russia probe.
The media reported what the investigation was going on. Other than the people in the media on the left, not on this network, I don't know anybody who got anything wrong.
That's fine. If that's your recollection of history, that's great.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines, 24/7 Sirius XM 115. Here with online reaction, and I think people have some interesting opinions on this one, Carly.
Yeah, good morning, guys. So CNN's Jake Tapper defended his network there, saying their reporting on the Russia investigation was fair. Meantime, President Trump would beg to differ. He slammed his least favorite media outlets over the weekend, even saying the New York Times and the Washington Post should have their Pulitzer Prizes taken away. Many Republicans on social media not so willing to forgive and forget. Brian says, definition of delusion. Another Twitter user, Jim, says, I honestly cannot understand why anyone would draw conclusions and opine on something they have not read. That tweet could be directed at both Republicans and Democrats. Democrats, though, now calling for the full Russia report to be released, including all that sensitive information obtained through grand juries as well.
Okay. And Chris Rock on Jussie Smollett. This is worth watching.
Yes. So Jussie Smollett did not attend the NAACP Image Awards this weekend, but Chris Rock certainly mentioned the hate crime hoax at the awards, even in his absence. Take a look.
They said no Jussie Smollett jokes. What the hell was he thinking? You're Jesse from now on. You don't even get the you no more. So you ain't getting no respect from me.
Well, social media had a thing or two to say about Rock's comments. One Twitter user says he was far too gentle on him. Another tweet coming in, some people are not afraid to tell the truth. And lastly, Crystal Clear says, truth to power, gotta make you smile. One person did defend Jussie Smollett. A Blackish actress stood up and said, I stand with Jussie. So he still has his supporters.
Yes, he does. Interesting. Okay, Elon Musk, new rapper, I guess?
Yeah, from Tesla CEO to rapper. I gotta be honest, I can say with certainty, this is the weirdest thing you're gonna hear all day. Elon Musk has dropped a rap song paying tribute to gorilla Harambe. Listen. Harambe was the Cincinnati Zoo gorilla who was killed in 2016 after a 3-year-old boy climbed into his enclosure. Who could forget Harambe? Gone but not forgotten, right, guys? One Twitter user says, are rich people okay?
Seriously.
And then lastly, another tweet coming in saying, Elon has hit the peak of humanity. I don't know what that means. That song has been viewed over 300,000 times so far. Yes.
I have nothing to say, actually.
I don't have any words.
Like I said.
Thanks, Carly.
Carly, thanks.
Appreciate it.
It is 26 minutes after the hour. Many Democrats say they believe Joe Biden's accuser, but is that enough to ruin his 2020 chances?
Do you think it's disqualifying?
I'm not sure that one incident alone disqualifies anybody.
All right, so the tone from this weekend has been a bit different than the Kavanaugh response. Is there a double standard here? Our panel debates it next.
Good Monday morning to you. Welcome back. A look at our top headlines that we're following this morning, starting with a Fox News alert. President Trump could shut down the U.S.-Mexico border as soon as today amid an unprecedented surge of illegal crossings. Mexico is now stepping in to stop the influx by busing migrants back to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. A young ISIS fighter executed by the terror group after being accused of spying. The baby-faced jihadist known as Osama bin Bieber is believed to be the first British ISIS fighter killed by the extremists. He reportedly revealed the location of a high-ranking ISIS official. And today, Chicago police officers are protesting outside the prosecutor's office in response to the Jussie Smollett case. The department is demanding the FBI intervene following Cook County State Attorney Kim Foxx's decision to dismiss all 16 felony charges against the Empire actor, accused of staging a hate crime against himself. Chilling new video shows a college student climbing into a car she thought was her Uber, only to be murdered soon after. Samantha Josephson's family now sending a serious warning to everyone who uses ride-sharing apps. Aisha Husney is here with their message. This is a terrifying story, Aisha.
Yeah, it is absolutely so scary for anyone who uses a ride-sharing app, but Samantha's parents are hoping it gets your attention and prevents your child from making a deadly mistake. Now, this is surveillance video right here showing Samantha leaving a Columbia bar and getting into a black Chevy Impala. Now, police believe she mistakenly thought it was her Uber. Tragically, her body was found later that day in a rural area with numerous wounds. Her parents and boyfriend are devastated.
She truly was the love of my life. Man, I saw such a clear future with her.
So police have arrested this man here, the owner of that car, 24-year-old Nathaniel David Rowland. He's charged with kidnapping and murder. Police say he activated the child locks in his back seat so Samantha wouldn't be able to open her door. Last night at a vigil, Samantha's parents pleaded for people to be careful when they're using a ride-sharing service.
You guys have to travel together. If there's somebody else in the car, there's actually a chance. And I don't want anybody else to ever go through this again. I can't tell you how painful this is.
Yeah, some safety tips to keep in mind. Check the license plate, the make and model of that car before you get in. And by the way, that suspect didn't even show up at his jail hearing. Right now, he's still in jail, at least until his bond hearing. Rob?
Just a terrible story.
Yeah, scary.
Aisha, yeah, it is. Thank you so much. All right, back to politics now. 2020 Democratic candidates sounding off on new accusations against former Vice President Joe Biden.
I believe Lucy Flores.
I have no reason not to believe her.
I believe Lucy Flores. We need to live in a nation where people can hear her truth.
I have no reason not to believe Lucy. I'm not sure that one incident alone disqualifies anybody.
All right, so Bernie Sanders there saying that one incident might not disqualify Joe Biden from being able to be the president of the United States. But Sanders came out pretty tough, along with the other Democrats, against Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, saying that he should be disqualified immediately, that an investigation had to happen. So is there a double standard here on the response to these two different cases? Here to debate that, senior writer at the Heritage Foundation, Kelsey Bolar, and Democratic strategist Spencer Critchley. Guys, thanks so much for getting up early with us today. Kelsey, we'll start with you. Do you see a double standard here at this point after the weekend?
I do, and I don't think this is a unique case where there is a double standard among Democrats when it comes to the Me Too movement. They constantly want to hashtag believe all women when it is politically convenient for them to do so, but in cases like Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, where it's not so easy for them to believe all women, they cast those concerns aside, and he's still sitting in office.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Spencer, when we look at this, the story here, what Joe Biden is accused of doing doesn't reach the levels of other sexual assault cases that have been more publicly viewed here in this country. But, you know, this is another Democrat, so there's not really a political aspect to this. Is this pretty damning for Joe Biden?
I think it's way too soon to tell, and I agree with you that based on what we know so far, although we do need to listen to Lucy Flores, like we do need to make sure we listen to all women who have reports like this, I think it's way too soon to tell just how serious this is. And I disagree that there's a double standard evident here. I think that most Democrats have been fairly consistent about this, which is that two things can be true at the same time. One, that unlike through history until very recently, we do need to listen to women. And two, at the same time, we need to follow due process, which has served us so well through our entire history. And I think that's basically what we're hearing from Bernie here, and what I hope we'll hear from all Democrats and from everybody.
Let me stay with you just for a second. Bernie's saying that just one incident shouldn't disqualify you. I would imagine that would anger a lot of women. Just one incident shouldn't disqualify you from being the President of the United States.
Yeah, I think that if you check out what Bernie said in its full context, he started off by saying it's very important that we listen to Lucy Flores, as the other Democratic candidates you played have been saying. And he said that this is something that both Democrats and Republicans, all of us, need to take seriously, especially because of the history behind it when women were so often dismissed and silenced in cases like this. But he's also saying something that I hope we can all support, which is that we need to learn more.
Right. Yeah, Kelsey, back to you. When Kavanaugh was going through all of this in the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, and there was so much rage, when one of the women, it was found to be it was pretty certain that she was making up the story. It didn't stop Democrats from still saying that all of these women need to be believed. And that was just an interesting thing to hear. What did you make of that?
And it's interesting to hear Spencer now concerned about issues of due process. I would argue this is what conservatives have been raising all throughout these conversations involving Me Too, where we do need to wait for facts and investigations to come out. I'd say this Joe Biden allegation is different because there's video after video, picture after picture of him being incredibly handsy with women who clearly did not grant him permission to do so. That said, these are not allegations of any sort of sexual assault or anything worse. So we do need to take each allegation separately on its own. That's what conservatives have long been advocating for. But it's good to hear that Joe Biden is finally ready to listen to women, because this is behavior that he's been conducting all throughout his career.
Yeah. And then you have Bernie Sanders' campaign had some issues with this as well. It's a tricky subject, guys. We appreciate your time this morning. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 37 minutes after the hour, she went viral for complaining about being fed beans as she made her journey through Mexico. Now this migrant is going to be eating prison food. The reason that she was just hauled away in handcuffs. Stay tuned for that. And millions of Americans not getting enough sleep, and it could be killing us. Boy, do we know that story. The sleep expert will join us with some tips on how to maximize your shut-eye. Stay tuned.
Good morning to you and welcome back. So how about this story? A caravan migrant from a viral video is now locked up on assault charges. In the video, she complains about only having beans to eat as she travels to the border. Well, now she's behind bars in Texas, charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Her sister was also reportedly arrested after the two allegedly beat another woman who gave them a place to stay.
Yikes. All right, another horse dies at a California racetrack 2 days after it reopens. That's now 23 horses that have died at Santa Anita since December. A 5-year-old gelding fell during a race yesterday, injuring his right front leg, had to be euthanized. Officials did extensive testing on the dirt course during the month it was closed, but did not find anything that might explain this. Workouts continue today. Racing resumes on Thursday out in California. All right, Americans are not getting enough sleep, and it's hurting our health.
A new study suggests not getting enough shut-eye may actually be killing us.
Here to give us some tips on getting more sleep and staying asleep is sleep medicine specialist Dr. Carol Ash. What better topic at 4:42 in the morning here on the East Coast than to talk about the fact that we can't sleep?
Yeah.
So, how bad is this problem?
It is a problem. You know, 40%, that's 120 million Americans.
Wow.
And, before we can even talk about solving it, we have to ask why. There are unrecognized and poorly treated sleep disorders. 25 million Americans with sleep apnea, which is a breathing disorder. It can be lethal. And there's some simple things. Just losing 10% of your body weight can get rid of snoring and the problem, get you to sleep at night. And another 30 million people with insomnia. And there's online behavioral programs called CBTI that could solve the problem.
So let's take a look at some of your tips for better sleep and dive into them a little bit. You say go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, which I know is a problem for many people, especially shift workers. That includes weekends. Make sure your bedroom is dark, quiet, comfortable, at a temperature with no electronics. Avoid large meals, caffeine and alcohol, and get some exercise. I'm curious what you think about something like a noise machine. Like I use one of those sometimes if I'm hearing noises and stuff because I have to go to bed early, and a lot of people are like that.
Those things can be really great. One of the things we need to understand about sleep is changing the perspective, because sleep can alter your self-control, so you'll make bad choices and continue with bad behaviors. So noise machines, those are great for changing the environment. And that's the one thing that studies show will change your sleep, changing the environment. So noise machines, there's other things you can do. You know, put in room darkening shades. You want to, like you suggested, keep the room cool. Most people sleep in a very cool environment. It's reduplicating what the night would be, right? It's warmer during the day, cooler at night. So the temperature is 65 to 75 degrees. And the right temperature is unique to you.
Yeah, I freeze the room when I go to bed. I love it. You look at this country versus the rest of the world. We work so much harder than the rest of the world. I think the stress levels here are getting worse and worse and worse. That's got to be leading to this problem in so many ways. People are just busy and stressed out.
It's a big factor. Yeah. But, you know, we're starting to realize, even in business, that $60 billion a year is lost because of lack of sleep. So it is a real problem. So businesses that are smart are starting to put in nap rooms. Just a quick nap. Yeah. 20 minutes can really re-energize you and make you much more productive.
How do you get the brain to shut off? Like, you know, you talk about stress and you talk about all of a sudden you lay down to go to bed and you're going through the list of things you have to do, and, you know, it gets you.
Well, what I tell my patients to do is just first declutter the room. Don't bring all of your day into that bedroom. It's just a reminder of all the busy things in our life and the stress. But you can start with your toes and just relaxing the muscles and going all the way up to your face. If you think about it for a second, your face is more tense right now than you realize. And your brain is looking for cues to know it's safe to relax and drift off into sleep. So that simple relaxation method, or just slowing down your breathing. You can't be in fight and flight and rest at the same time. So slowing down your breathing can actually trick your brain into thinking it's time to drift off to sleep and shutting